Hello, everyone. I'm Kay Kuzma. Welcome to another 3ABN Up Close. We're coming to you today from Patmos Chapel, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Winter Park, Florida. And we'd like to thank our live audience who's joined us today for this very, very special program. It's always special when we have a live audience. And today, we're going to be talking about teenage pregnancy, which affects 900,000 teens each year in the United States alone. In fact, the United States has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancy of all the industrialized nations. Studies show that teen pregnancy has a significant effect on the teenager who's pregnant, the father of the baby, and the parental support system, and perhaps most important, on that baby that's to be born. Today, we're going to be exploring how we can not only help those who are teenage parents, but also how we can help other teens to avoid the problem of teen pregnancy. Our first guest is Cassandra Thompson from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And although she could not be with us today, we did tape an interview with her. Cassandra was 17 years old and had been dating someone from her church for a year. Getting pregnant was not something that she had planned on, but it happened, and it changed the entire course of her life. And here's what she has to say.
When I was 17 years old, I had a boyfriend. We were together for almost a year, and we were in love. We did things together. We went out. We were on top of the world. We were also having protected sex, but I found myself pregnant. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I'm sure my parents were going to be upset. They had always told me not to have a boyfriend and just wait till later on in life when I have my education and I build a life for myself. I didn't listen. I didn't know how to tell them, so I told my closest friend, which was his sister. She told her parents, and they told my parents. I wish I had told my parents myself, because I think it hurt them more that they had to hear it from someone else and not me. But I didn't think that I could go to them and speak to them. It stressed me out a lot. I used to cry every day, not knowing how I would provide for this baby. Little did I know, the next day after my mom found out I was pregnant, she went out and started buying baby clothes and bottles and food and diapers, and she was just storing it away from me. When my dad found me one day crying in my room, he snuck me into the closet, into their closet, and he showed me this big bassinet with all this stuff in it. And he told me not to worry, that my mom did love me, and she was just disappointed, and that everything would be taken care of.
It takes courage, to speak about your experience. And I think it's interesting that Cassandra said that she and her boyfriend dated for a year. They had fun together, went places together, and they were sure they were in love. But what happened once she got pregnant? Did her boyfriend continue to be a vital part in her life? Did their love relationship grow? Pregnancy is a challenging stage of life, regardless of how old you are or how many babies you've had. But being young and not married can add a lot of extra challenges to a pregnancy. Here's what Cassandra experienced during that time.
During my pregnancy, I felt very alone. I went to all my prenatal visits alone. I went through a lot of my pregnancy alone, and my parents, they were there for me and my family and close friends, But the father of the baby and his family, they were still in denial, and they hadn't come around until my daughter was born. Previously, we hadn't had any real good communication until then, and when she was born, I guess they started to accept the fact that the baby was his, and it's just a new innocent life in the world that they need to learn to accept and love this baby because it was their grandchild. After I realized that I had done something wrong and I needed to ask for forgiveness, I did, and it was really hard. I turned to God for a lot of things, for help on what I was going to do as far as taking care of this baby, and I wanted to know how He was going to help me, because I didn't see any physical signs until I spoke with my Father. So this was a big step on how He was going to pull me through this one. And He did. He gave me 2 wonderful parents that helped me through this whole situation. And I thanked Him for that.
It's not easy to talk about these things, and I think the thing that hit me the most as I listened to this is when Cassandra said, I felt so alone. I was going through this without how I perhaps had imagined it when I was a young girl, growing up before 17, and now she's alone. But what did she do? She turned to her Father in heaven, the best support system. And did you catch? Then suddenly she kind of felt that support that she needed. And then she went to her father. The father, of course, showed her the things that Mom was getting. And although Cassandra felt she didn't want to disappoint her parents, once pregnancy happened, they just turned around, even though perhaps disappointed. They turned around and accepted her and gave her the love and support she needed. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking to Donna Teat, who worked for many years as a medical social worker dealing with these problems. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Next week on Up Close.
Our topic is how to find the way out of depression that leads to suicide.
The despair of the time, I had 2 children at the time, and in that moment, I became very suicidal.
Probably the most common is depression. Proverbs 17:22 says that a broken spirit dries the bones.
He said, never hurt yourself over me. He said that he wasn't worth it.
You are going to praise God no matter what. You are going to turn your negative thoughts to the power source of strength. Now what happens? Rejoice.
Next week on Up Close, is suicide a way out? Don't miss it.
Welcome back to Up Close. Today we're talking about the problem of teen pregnancy, and our special guest is Donna Teat from South Bend, Indiana. Donna worked for many years as a medical social worker, and she has lectured extensively on this topic. And currently, she is a high school teacher where she deals with many problems, including teen pregnancy. And we've had a chance to talk a little bit together, and those teenagers in your high school classes, Donna, I think are very lucky. We want to welcome Donna. This is really great. Thank you. Well, our problem's a big one. We can't solve everything, but I'd really like to ask you, just to get things started, why do you think so many teenagers today are sexually active?
Looking for love in all the wrong places. They don't get the love or the attention at home, and they feel, hey, I can get it from my friends or from peers or a boyfriend, or a boy will give me what I need. And so we have a lot of teenagers, I see a lot of teens who are looking for love, looking for any kind of attention from anybody who will give it to them. And unfortunately, who they look for, it's the wrong person.
And what kind of behaviors do you see in these kids when they're kind of at risk for teenage pregnancy, when they're looking for love in all the wrong places?
In my classroom especially, as well as at the public high school, the behaviors that we see are not only there's a lack of supervision in the home, but we see their behavior acting out in the way they dress, the way they talk.
Oh, come on, give me an example. The way they dress. Some of us haven't been in the classroom recently.
Well, you'll be surprised. The way they dress isn't appropriate. I'm considered the most old-fashioned teacher at my school. Oftentimes, even if I were to dress down and not wear a suit, my teenagers treat me differently. What we do, we see a lot of the young men wearing sagging pants, showing and exposing their boxer shorts. We see the girls exposing the navels. Don't put a belt on. We see the young ladies exposing their navels. Everything's getting lower and lower. The skirts are getting shorter and shorter. We see a lot of young people, they don't know how to sit.
So what other behaviors do you see? The clothing you mentioned, the way they sit you mentioned.
There's a preoccupation with trying to please or trying to please someone else and get that level of acceptance from someone else. The young girls feel that I'm a woman if I have a boyfriend. I'm okay if I have a boyfriend. If I don't have a boyfriend, something's wrong with me. Or the other kids must think that I'm a lesbian. And no, we're not going out like that, Miss T. I have a man. You know, they look to get their self-esteem and who and what they are in a man. And the guys also feel the same way. I have to have this girl, this girl, this girl, this girl, this girl. It's all a front. I want to make sure that I'm tough and I'm all of that with my friends and that kind of thing.
But it's not just having a boyfriend. It's the sexual activity.
Having multiple partners. Anywhere, anytime.
That's kind of become an accepted thing in the culture.
And it's peer pressure. If you're, none of my students would openly, in the middle of class, say, "Hello, Miss T, I'm a virgin." No, you don't want to go out like that. You don't want to go out with like that. And the students one-on-one will come up to you and say, "Miss T, you know, I haven't done anything like that." But receiving acceptance from their peers is so important. Wanting to fit in is so important that giving up for the sake of who and what I am and what I stand for, it's okay as long as I fit in.
Now you wonder where they have gotten this, because a generation or two ago, we didn't see this, at least so openly. What do you think about television and the media? Are we feeding our kids this trash?
We're feeding our kids a lot of stuff, but I want to say, even before we go there, there's no supervision in the home. Oftentimes, for the students that I see, I'm the first adult that has the nerve to say anything to them during that 24-hour period. So a lot of times at 7:45 in the morning when we start class, the bell rings at 7:30, 7:35, we have warning bells. I'm the first adult for many of my students to tell them what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Because mom or dad, depending on what the home situation is, they're not there. Oftentimes, a lot of my students are the parents within their home. You know, they're taking care of younger brothers and sisters. They're going up, making sure that their younger brother and sister are getting up in the morning. They're going, getting them dressed, getting them on the school bus. Then they themselves are coming to school.
I think a lot of parents are sometimes afraid to put those boundaries, like pull up your pants and get a decent blouse on, because they want to be liked, loved by their kids, and they are afraid if they put those boundaries on their kids, they will lose a relationship with their kids.
Or even a lot of it, and I want to get to the media point that you brought out, is we don't have time.
Okay.
The devil would have us to believe that we have to have a two-parent, two-working, we have to keep up with the Joneses. We have to have the latest car. We have to have the latest clothes. You know, my 2-year-old can't walk around unless he has Tommy Hilfiger and whatever. I remember at 2, at 6, at 7, at 8, I didn't care about clothes. I didn't know nothing about, was it Guess? Was it Louis Vuitton? Was it this or that? I just wore clothes because that's what my mama told me. And if I didn't do what my mama told me, then you just didn't go there. I didn't worry about clothes. I didn't worry about electric bill. I don't ever remember a time where the phone was disconnected or there was no heat or there was no food, or we knew that this is what you were going to do. Times have changed. We live in a fast-paced society. We want it quick. We want it now. That parents are so caught up in trying to make a living that we've somehow lost track of what God's ideal is for us. We don't depend on Him enough.
Yeah.
We don't give Him our family, our children, our finances. Lord, listen, I don't know how there's more month than money. And I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I need to be home with my children. Between the time they get home from school and 7 o'clock at night, there needs to be somebody in that home. If I can't do it, I need church help, I need friends, I need somebody. But we don't trust Him enough, and what you're finding is that most inappropriate activity among teenagers is happening during those hours and during those times. Now, you mentioned the media.
Yeah.
You know, I could name off stores right now. And one of the things that I talk to the students about is, you know, I bring in pictures. In fact, when I do these talks, I bring in copies of magazines. I make the kids go through magazines. I want you to pick out all the advertisements that depict sexual anything. And there's a commercial, got milk? Well, we know he has milk because he's got milk on his, mustache. But why does he have no clothes on? You know, when I go to get a bowl of cereal and milk, why do I need to... Oh, I'm going to go get some milk with no clothes on. These images are there all over, and we talk to the kids, and what we're saying to parents and to young people, talk to your parents about these images. What does this... There's certain individuals that I will not buy or wear their clothing. Because when I found out, I used to, there's a lady that I love her clothing. She's got some fine clothing. But when I found out that 60% of the money she gets from this clothing, she came out on national TV and said that she gives it to the devil. Why would I want to support that? So if I'm going to buy clothes, I want whoever I'm buying that label from to represent the values that I have. If they're going to, depict women in an inappropriate way, to try to sell something, or they're going to call women an inappropriate name, or they're going to, I got to have sex and I got to do this. I mean, you never hear rappers talk about, boom, boom, I got an STD, it's crabs or whatever it may be. You never hear them talk about those things. But when you start talking to young people and saying, listen, look at the clothing. What does it represent? What's the history behind the clothing? Because if you found out the history behind, sagging pants, you don't go in any jail and have your pants sagging. So why are you doing it in this environment? And when kids understand that, they can make a better decision, a better informed decision.
Wow. And I'm thinking also the movies our kids watch, the sitcoms. I mean, they're saying hello 1 minute and they're kissing the next minute and then they're in bed.
Right. You never ever see the... that it was painful or that it hurt the first time that someone had intercourse. You never see that the person ended up, getting cervical cancer. You never see anything about that this relationship ruined possible future relationships because it wasn't all like it was cracked up to be. One of the things that Cassandra talked about was she was in love. Mm-hmm. We dated for a year. But I dare say those feelings of in love and that feeling that they had between each other, is that the same now like it was then? And you don't see that on movies. You don't see that in the soap operas. I mean, people are getting into bed, out of bed, into bed, out of bed. there's so many beds. So, I mean, there's so many beds, I'm telling you.
Wow. So the problem of teenage pregnancy, basically, is kids are sexually active. This is a part of their lifestyle.
Well, the culture would make you or want you to believe that all the teenagers are having sex. That's not true.
Good. Good.
It's just... It is nothing but the devil's lies. If he can lie to you, and if he can kind of just change your... I love how Stephen Covey talks about a paradigm shift. If he can present something in such a way to get you to think that everybody else is doing it, then you think. As a man thinketh, so is he. But what you need to understand, not everybody is having sex. There are a lot of young people who aren't having sex, who have made a stand and say, you know what, I'm going to save myself for the kind of relationship that God wants me to have. Sex is a wonderful thing. And it's supposed to be a wonderful thing under the right circumstances.
All right. Now, here we are. We've got a high school teacher who's going to hold her kids to be responsible. But what about the parents? What can parents do to help? What about the boundaries that we should be setting or encourage our kids to set, and so that they make responsible decisions in this area?
One of the things that I talk about is boundaries. I not only talk about it when I do workshops, I talk about it with the kids, but I also make the parents go through boundaries. And it's fun. It is funny to see what parents think are appropriate boundaries, you know, what maybe the mom thinks is an appropriate boundary and what the dad thinks is an appropriate boundary.
Give us some examples. Yeah. Let's do that.
Let me give you some examples of boundaries. Some of the examples of the boundaries that we're talking about.
Now, you have a whole
this is a module that I put together. Friendly, smiling, and looking. That's one boundary. Yeah, I'm just checking you out, Kay. I'm not into you. Just example, everybody. That's friendly, look, and smile.
Well, this is a friendship thing.
Yes,
this is a friendship. It has
friendly,
nothing really to do with...
You know, when you give somebody, oh, okay, you look kind of good over there in that blue shirt. Just giving you examples, sir. Okay. Talking on the phone is another boundary. Writing letters. You know, well, back in the day, we used to write notes. I got a spanking in the 2nd grade for writing notes. I don't think kids do that. You know what I'm talking about. I love you. I don't like you. You are not my friend. Okay, writing letters. Spending time with his or her family, holding hands, putting your hands around each other, cuddling and kissing, keeping late hours, touching above the waist, touching below the waist, and then having sex. Okay. So we talk about boundaries, and what I want to know is I want the kids to figure out what is an appropriate stopping place for you. Now, I make the parents go through it, too. Actually, I make the parents go through it first. And it's interesting that one of the things I was sharing with you is when we have, for example, hypothetical, when we have a mom and a dad, and let's say they have a son, teenage son. It's interesting that the father will be at a different stopping point than the mother for their son. But if it's a girl, the father will be at some place and the mother will be at some place too. And it tends to be at the first boundary, which is friendly, smiling, and looking. If not, I don't even want you doing that.
The dad becomes very protective.
Very protective. Even in my household, my father, there's things that my brothers could do. I'm the only girl, I have 3 brothers, that I couldn't do. My brothers could, go and see a young lady, and they would take my things and give them to their, these little girls. I would make stuff in Pathfinders, and the next thing I know, my brother's, this little girl that he thought was so cute, she'd come with my stuff from Pathfinders. Oh, you need to give that back, honey. That's mine, But then if I was interested in a boy, oh, no, Donna, you are not going out of this house, and you are not, you cannot date until you're 33. It's different. Yeah. But what we're talking about is trying to get parents and children in a dialogue, communicating, because if you don't establish your boundaries, somebody else will. And so what I do in my classrooms, we role play. You start, take a young man and he's sitting there, I put my arm around him. I don't know about you, but that happened to me actually on a date of mine. And I'm like, whoops. Where did that come from? Get your hand up. Where did this come from? But one of the things that we realize is that If kids have the information that they need in the situation, they'll make a better choice. If they don't have the information, then somebody else makes that choice for them.
Okay, we're going to do a little role playing here.
Okay. You got to get close to me.
Oh, okay, here. Oh, Donna, it's so good to be with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we take
talking
this up
about
to 2004? Can we take this up to 2004?
Oh, Donna. Okay.
Let's take it up to 2004.
Give me a boundary.
Okay, you look so good. Okay. You wear that outfit well. That's the first thing.
Okay.
No boy or girl has the right to look you up and down. They need to know no. I had a student of mine, came from juvenile jail. He was out of school, came like at the very end, like the last month of school. He wasn't going to get any credits from me. I mean, there's no way. You can't show up 1 month before school's out. And he came and he's like, okay, here's this teacher. And he came and he did one of these and he walked around me. I said, walk around me again and I'm going to send I'm going to send you behind home and you're going to be suspended for 5 days. Don't you ever look at me like that. And don't you ever, You don't do that. That's inappropriate. And what I'm talking about, that's how it gets started. But if you don't say anything and you say, you send the wrong message that it's okay. So then it goes from, okay, ooh, you look so good, let me get with, ooh, and they'll get close. Now, it used to be that there was a personal space between, this is personal space. And you had to get permission to come into that personal space. Now, young men and even young girls, they'll take it. They'll take it. I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to take what I want. And they may even put their hands on you. And they think that that's okay. And like I said, one thing leads to another, leads to another. I think that's a song. Leads to another. And if you don't stop it when it starts, you're going to find yourself in situations or positions that you never dreamed yourself to be in. You never dreamed. How did this guy, his hands are all over me. And okay. I didn't,
Let's take that.
Okay.
Hands all over you. What do you say? What do you tell these kids to say?
You get that boy or you get that girl off of you. You do what you have to do. Get them off of you.
Words. Give me, if you were the girl.
If you have to hit them, kick them, whatever, get them off of you. Sometimes, unfortunately, words don't mean everything. I don't wear a wedding ring. And the first day of school, because I don't look my age, I got approached by a security guard. Hey, you good looking, excuse me, I'm married. In fact, this past Wednesday, I was at McDonald's. I was coming from an appointment, and I couldn't make it home, and I said, I got to get something in my stomach. I can't make it home from the doctor's appointment, because we're going to just have an accident here. And older gentleman said, oh, let me talk to this fine young thing. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm here throwing up. I got to address this. I told him, excuse me, sir, you might not want to dialogue with me like that because I don't dialogue with anybody like that. And I'm happily married, which is none of his business, but I said, I'm happily married. He said, well, since your husband's had you, why don't you let me have you? And I told him, I said, that's inappropriate. You do not talk to me that way. I spoke to the manager, and he's kind of been terminated. But, those are the things that's inappropriate. And if you walk the walk, you've got to talk the talk all the time. You don't have to, a ring's not going to stop somebody from approaching you. Even if you could put on a dress that covers from here to here, it's not going to stop somebody if they want to talk to you or try to see how far they can go. But you've got to set the standard for what is going to happen in my personal sphere.
Hey, I got to take
and
you
what
to,
won't.
I got to take you to kissing because that's the big one. You go
okay.
out on one date, you kiss. What is the boundary there?
Kids need to understand, young people need to understand, adults need to understand. Kissing is a part of foreplay. Kissing, holding hands, putting your arms around somebody, whispering things in your ear, kissing on your neck. All of it is leading and preparing the body for sex. When you understand it in that concept, then it's like, oh, well, yeah, I may still want to kiss this boy, and I may still want to hold his hands. But you know what? We need to talk about this, and we can wait. You know, you can still kiss me on the hand. Here. Just, rub your lips right there. Okay, feels good. Thank you. Move on. But, I mean, when you understand what this is for and the meaning behind this, it changes your whole paradigm. And what we're talking about is we want young people to have a paradigm shift. I don't expect every kid that I ever talk to, whether in the church or out of the church or in the school or in the community, to be a virgin. I don't expect every kid, after they hear me, I'm never having sex again because of Donna T. That's not my job. My job is to plant the seed. And it's the Holy Spirit's job is to convert and convict. And what I want young people to understand is that when they find themselves in those situations, that the Lord will bring back to remembrance something, anything. I've changed the way I pray. I used to, dear Heavenly Father, be with my students and put a hedge of prayer. No, dear Heavenly Father, this young man is planning to do this to this young lady, or this young lady is planning to do this to this young man at 6 o'clock tonight. Because, my students tell me everything. They're planning to do this, or this weekend. I ask that you intercede some way, somehow. Stop it, yank it off, whatever. I mean, whatever you got to do, you do. And I tell the kids when I'm praying for them, and they're like, man, Miss T, you're messing up my group. That's my job. I'm supposed to mess up your group. Because you're not going to ever hear me tell you, I don't care what your mom says. I don't care what your father says. I don't care if you have condoms in your pocket right now. In fact, give me your wallet. Oh, man, Miss T. I don't care. But I do care about you. And I want to see you next year or 5 years from now. And I want you to be healthy. I want you to be prosperous. I want you to be in a loving relationship, the one that God has for you. You may not believe in God. Oh, well, I do. You don't. That's okay. I'll still pray for you too. But, this is what I want for you, because what the world has for you, there's nothing out there for you.
And parents sometimes send double messages. I don't want you to have sex, but if you're going to, then maybe you should have some protection.
One of the things, parents, if you decide you're going to have sex, let me know. No, you don't want to know. Let me know. When you've decided that, let me know. No, you want to know before they make that decision. You don't want them to decide, then do, then let you know. That's not what you're saying. That's not what you're saying. We don't send information clearly. We don't send the right signal. I remember when I came home from Oakwood College. And my first year, I came back on home leave, or it was a break or something like that. And I had people tell me, so when you get married? So you got a man? You got a boyfriend? Well, what's wrong with you? And I would hear this every time I came home, that before I graduated from this school, I was supposed to have been married, I was supposed to have done this and do that and everything. And I thought, is something wrong with me? Because I'm not doing this. We said we want you to wait, but then we turn around and we put the pressure on in other ways. Or we don't create an environment which celebrates waiting for Christ.
Oh, Donna, we've been talking so much about preventing teenage pregnancy, but, we've got, 900,000 girls who are pregnant in the U.S. alone. Once you're pregnant, it's too late to talk about what I wish I would have done. Now, how are we going to respond to these girls that are pregnant? What is society, how are they treating them?
Twofold. One, it's not too late to talk about how to prevent it, because statistics will tell you that if a teenager has had one pregnancy, the likelihood of them repeating that and having another pregnancy is high. Within another year, it's high. So it's good to talk about, hey, we don't want to go down that road. The second thing, what was the second part of your question?
How should we respond to the girl who's pregnant?
We should, one thing that I heard on Christian radio is how a church responded. And I think that's the wonderful model that schools, communities, churches, families need to take. And this young lady in this particular congregation got pregnant, and the pastor found out about it. And the following Sunday, immediately, he brought her in front of everybody And from the pulpit, he said, this young lady is pregnant. We're not going to talk about her. We're not going to whisper behind her back. I don't like what she did. We don't like the choices that she made, but we're going to surround this young lady, and we're going to put a hedge of protection about her. We're going to take care of the child. We're going to do whatever we need to do to give her the support and the love that she needs. And that's redemption. Beautiful. That's redemption.
That's redemption.
And it sends a clear message. It gets the rumors and the gossiping and all that stuff out of the way. And it sends a clear message to the other young people, this is unacceptable behavior. But it also, we can surround this person and bring them back into the fold. And that's a wonderful thing. Do you think she'll still be in church? Do you think that she'll be attending? Do you think that she will form closer relationships with more adults than what she had before? Now she's got aunts and uncles and, fictive or pretend cousins and relatives who care about her and care about her welfare. And when you find out that somebody cares about your welfare, you aim to please. You do whatever it takes to please them.
Cassandra kind of said something like that in her testimony, that the importance of God in her life, parents in her life, and how her parents came through and really loved her, even though she did disappoint them.
Right. And it's okay to tell young people, you disappointed me. You disappointed me. And it's not easy. You talked about some of the things that people's response or community's response. One of the challenges that I see while I was pregnant with my first pregnancy, I had some of my teenagers in my classes were pregnant at the same time. And absenteeism in the school is a big thing because there's no daycare, there's no child care, there's nobody to take care of them while you go to school all day, and you need that extra support. Typically, it's a challenge for young people to be pregnant and have a baby and stay in school and finish your education. And it messes up your education. It takes you a little bit longer, or, there are some programs that you can go to night school, you can pursue this or whatever. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go get my GED. I looked at the GED. The GED is harder, I think, than completing 4 years of high school. The GED is no joke. It's not an easy out, or I'll drop out of school. That's not an option either.
Now, young girls, of course, Cassandra was 17, but I had kids, 14, 15, maybe even 13, are having
10,
9,
11,
10,
12, yes,
are having babies.
yes.
Now, these are children having children. And many, of course, think, well, I'm going to have a baby because at last somebody will love me. I'm going to have somebody that will love me. How do you deal with this?
One of the things in the school, there's been the initiative of Baby Think It Over doll. And I don't know how many people are familiar with this Baby Think It Over doll. The doll comes, the doll was actually designed. A father, he's a mechanical engineer, and his daughter was coming home pretending that a sack of flour was her baby. And she had to love this thing. He said, that's not a true representation of a baby. And he came up with this Baby Think It Over doll. And one of the things that the schools have done is that this baby can be programmed by the classroom teacher to have different responses, cry extremely all night long or whatever. And what happens is there's a computer chip in the back of this doll that what it does is it records everything you do. If you allow the child to cry too long, you forcibly stop crying and you did this, because it's been a wonderful avenue to find out if kids have the propensity to be abusers. Because it's programmed, that crying nonstop, and it's supposed to simulate what it would be to have a child. Children, to have a child because you think, that's a myth, that you think this child is going to turn around and say, I love you. No. Feed me, clean me, change my diaper, and leave me alone.
We have a clip, one more clip from Cassandra, where she talks about being a teenage mother, and it's not easy. Let's take a look.
Being a mother was very hard for me. It's very hard. You have to worry about where the next meal is coming from, a roof over your head, just all the financial and emotional responsibilities that comes along with it. And along with being a mother, I was a teenage mom. So it was more hard than I really expected it to be, because I wasn't mature yet. I didn't expect a lot of that emotional distress that I had. Through all of these things, my parents were there for me. I was able to go to a special school for teen moms that took care of my baby while I went to school. And I did walk closer with God, and He helped me through all of these things also. I was able to get back into church and be baptized again. And I became choir leader. And I just took more involvement in church and my daughter's life.
I think it's so important to have that support from others during this time, because it's difficult to have children and be a young mother anyway.
True. And one of the things that Cassandra brought out, teens who decide to play grown-up, that's not really how I want to word it, but teens who do adult behavior, they need to live with adult consequences. And responsibilities. And a lot of times as our society, we say as parents, I don't want my child to go through what I went through. I don't want my child to have to walk 3 miles to school. I don't want my child to have to suffer or do this. As if all the experiences that we went through, we turned out that bad. No. Kids need to assume those responsibilities. They need to know what it feels like at 2 o'clock in the morning that child cries, and at 3 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock.
And when you can't go out with your friends.
And you can't go out with your friends. But if you take all the consequences away from them, how will then they expect to do differently? Because now I got a instant babysitter, and I can still be and do what I want to do. Yes, you can still accomplish and do your, accomplish goals and live your dreams, but you also have a responsibility to that child first.
Yes. Well, in just a moment, we're going to find out what our live audience thinks about this, and we're also going to take their questions. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Are you a teen struggling to grasp the fact that you're pregnant? Or do you know a pregnant teen and are wondering how you can help? If so, we have just the material for you. Find information and help in 4 brochures that deal with issues surrounding a teen pregnancy. For your free gift, just write to us today at Up Close, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois, 62896. Or call us during regular business hours at 800-752-3226 or 618-627-4651. Ask for Up Close offer number 4.
Welcome back to Up Close. Our topic today is teen pregnancy, and we've taken a look at the problems teens face when they discover they're pregnant. We've also looked at how we can be supportive and how we can help prevent this situation from happening. But we want to open up the program now for questions from our wonderful audience. And Donna, I think they are going to have some great questions. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Please tell us your name and your question.
My name is Clarine, and I'm a nurse on an OB floor. I've worked with obstetric nursing for almost 13 years. So one of the comments I want to make before I ask my question is, one of the things, this topic is dear to my heart, that I have noticed in obstetrical nursing is that teens model the parents' behavior. Yes. You cannot ask your teen to be abstinent if you as an adult, whether you're married or single, can't do that yourself. Yeah. So that's one thing that I've noticed. The second thing is, Donna, you talked about tools that you can give your teen. One of the tools that we've done with my teenage daughters is we've done what we call a key talk. And that is where you take an evening with your daughter, if it's the mother, or the father with the son, and talk about sex, talk about STDs, talk any questions they can have, they can open themselves up. and get them to commit to what it means to be pure and that they want that because it's beneficial to them. And then you give them a memento of that evening. We did a watch so that when they're away from you daily, it's a daily reminder of what they've committed to. Now, we've done all that, and your teen comes to you and says, I'm going to have sex. Then what do you do? That's my question.
That's your question.
No, you're not going to have sex. I'm going to lock you up. We're going to pray over you tonight. We're going to lay hands. We're going to call in all the elders. You said what? Your mom, your dad, everybody. You need help. And you know what? If a child is determined, the more you tell them no and they're determined to do it, you need the Holy Spirit. And you know what? There's nothing wrong. You know, kids need to see you on your knees in prayer, laboring over them. And if you have a kid who's determined to, I used to be a knuckleheaded. I'm going to do what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are groups of individuals who have to learn the hard way. But that doesn't mean that we stop laboring and lingering over them. And there's nothing wrong in bringing people together who have an invested interest in that child and say, we're going to pray. We're going to pray you through this, and we're going to pray over you, and maybe we need to increase the amount of time that you're spending with mom and dad. We're going on a vacation today. You do whatever. That's your child. That's your baby. You do whatever it is you have to do to stop them from making that course. There's a wonderful book, wonderful author that is quoted by Muhammad Ali and everything, and they even call her Dr. White. But she talks about if you saw your child getting ready to walk over a precipice, wouldn't you do everything to pull them back? And that's our job, to pull them back. One of the things that I wanted to say and congratulate you on is the fact that you're spending time with your teenagers and you have a special date or time that you have. And I've started to do that with my 1.5-year-old old son. I take him out to eat, him and I. What better way for him to learn how a young lady should treat him than him spending time with me? And if this child happens to be a girl, my husband will do the same thing. They need that personal time. That's a wonderful thing.
Good. You're good. Well, I think we have another question. Your name?
Yes, my name is Derek, and my question was, how do you successfully advise a preteen who's already engaging in premarital sex not to, even though you are so far away from them?
Number one, tell them what they're doing is wrong. Tell them what they're doing, there's some consequences. Number two, pray with them. Pray for them. Number three, find out whoever their parents, you need to talk to somebody, because you're not there on a day-to-day basis, and this whole, the devil, secrecy and not talking and not sharing, but you need to tell someone. Tell someone, listen, this is some information. I am concerned for your life. I rate that on the same level as somebody saying, life's not worth living. I want to kill myself. I'm going to tell someone because I love you that much. They may get angry with you. They may call you every name in the book, but that's okay because I still love you from a distance.
I was thinking as the question came, what about spiritual virginity that you were talking about before we came on the program? You mentioned that to me, secondary virginity.
Well, what I tell young people is that you can become a virgin again, a spiritual virgin again. The Lord says, I will remember your sin no more. I tell the young people I run a youth group, and I tell them, who do you call in an emergency? What number do you dial? 911. We'll put it backwards. 119. 1 John 1, verse 9. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just. And that's what I tell my young people. I don't care. I tell my young people in school, if you confess, He is faithful and just to remove it and cleanse it. You can start again. He says you can start again. He adopts us into His family.
And that needs to be a message.
And that's the message, that you can become a spiritual virgin again.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, we got another question. Your name?
Yes, hi, my name is Janet, and I used to work for the Orange County Public Schools, and there I was a paraprofessional. Children would come up to me, give me information or secrets. Well, they want things to be confidential. What do you do in that, essence, like the question before me? You almost answered it, but this is where you don't know the parent. You're looking at a public school. So where do you stop between confidentiality and, trying to save that child?
Confidentiality is very, very important. Anything that is going to harm, risk that child, it's your duty to tell. One of the things that I work with a paraprofessional as well. I'm special education, so we appreciate you. I have kids who will tell my paraprofessional things that they won't tell me, because Miss T, if she finds out, she's gonna be mad at me. She's gonna kill me if she finds out. My paraprofessional tells me everything. We establish that from the get-go. In that classroom, whatever teacher you're working with, ideally you should have a close enough working relationship. You need to tell them, because that teacher should have been trained and equipped to be able to handle those kinds of situations. If not, there's a school social worker. There are behavioral, now in this day and age, we have a lot of behavioral medical individuals who are coming into our school, case managers, therapists, those kinds of things. We have that kind of a crisis team within our school building. And my paraprofessional, she tells me everything. And I go and I confront that student. I will find a student before they leave home that day. They will hear from Miss T, whatever. And we'll talk about it. I had, and that same situation occurred this past year. I had a student who was pregnant and did not tell their parents. We went and I called that mom up and we told parents, because I don't want the kids to think that I'm an adult who's going to keep secrets from their parents. Parents need to be involved with this process, and they need to know what's going on. And most of the time, they have no idea.
And I think they probably respect you when you take that stand. I mean, they may not like it at first, but...
Well, they want to know that they're going to be loved, that you're going to still be there, and you're going to work through this situation with them. You're not leaving them.
You care enough.
You care enough. You're going to stick it out with them.
Very good, very good. Yes. We have another question. Your name?
Hi, my name is Wanda, and I have a 9.5-year-old, and since the time she was young, we've had a good relationship. I've talked to her about the differences between boys and girls, and when I was pregnant with my 3-year-old, we talked about, fetal development, and so she has a good understanding of that. I was wanting to wait to get into the specifics until she was a little older, wanting to keep her as innocent as long as possible. But I'm wondering, I don't want her to hear from her friends. What is the ideal age to start talking about the particulars of this?
First of all, continue that close relationship with your child. And tell your daughter, do you have any questions? If she goes to a public school, private school, whatever, what are your friends talking about? In fact, invite her friends over to your house and listen in on what they're talking about. You'll find out quickly what they're talking about. Now, the other thing is, right now, at 9 years of age, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, kids need to know that people do not touch you in certain places. They don't put their hands on you. And if anybody, she may not be ready for a whole big discussion on the birds and the bees. And you don't have to do a whole big discussion. I think that's what scares parents. Oh, Lord have mercy. What am I going to say? But let her know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate for adults, church members, anybody. And if that happens, come. And you can ask her, did anybody or did anything? And that's okay.
Well, Donna, we have just about come to the end, but before we close, I want your final thoughts. Words of wisdom that are really going to help us, really speak to us, maybe speak to the young teenager who's pregnant right now. It's yours.
For the young teenager who's pregnant, you're not alone. God is so faithful. He is right there in that situation with you. Don't give up. Don't lose despair. And it may seem like everything around you is dark and there's no glimmering light, but you hang on to the Lord. Read and immerse yourself in everything you possibly can. Encouraging texts. Lord, I'm not going to leave you until you bless me. Kind of like Jacob. I'm holding on to you. You do whatever it takes. Lord, I'm not going to go through this situation until you bless me. And for the teen who's thinking about it, I pray that whatever I said, if you remember nothing else, that you remember one thing, that God has something so special for you, you have no idea. And if you want to have the best sex, the best relationship, the best, hook up with God. In fact, if you want to read about sex, just open the Bible. You want to read about, that's the best, Harlequin and all this other stuff. That's the best novel, fast action drama, whatever it is you're into, it's in the Bible. Somebody did it, done it, been there, that kind of thing and stuff. But immerse yourself with what God wants you to do, because he says, if you honor me, I'm going to honor you. And I'm going to cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth. And see, we don't know what that ride is like, because, we keep trying to help God out. Quit helping him out. He knows what you need. And make a list. Lord, this is what I want in my life by age 20, by age 26, or whatever. And the Lord will honor those. When you immerse yourself with him, he immerses yourself with you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've all learned so much, so much. Well, we want to thank you for being with us, and we want to thank Cassandra Thompson, too, for sharing with us, even though she couldn't be with us personally. I think that's very special, what she shared with us. God didn't give sex to single people. He gave it to husbands and wives for procreation, for enjoyment, and most of all, as a symbol of lifetime, one flesh commitment. This is a symbol of commitment. And God says in Jeremiah 29:11, I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Pregnancy should be the most exciting, wonderful time in a girl's life, as she feels her body change, as she's bringing that new life into being. But getting pregnant too soon, without lifetime commitment between the single mother and the single father, it can be devastating. It can change a whole course of a person's life. But God can redeem. I think that's what we've learned from this program today. God can redeem. Because of the choices we make, God sometimes has to go to plan B for our lives. But regardless of the circumstances you find yourself in, God can teach you and he can help you become a kind, loving, and wise mother or a kind, loving father. He can give you the desires of your heart if you'll just commit your life to him. If you happen to find yourself pregnant too soon, I'd suggest reading Psalms 37. At least you can start there. And I believe you will find courage.